Hello, I'm Jim Skelly, and this is week number 3 in the Global Conversation. By now you should really be getting deeply into the class. As most of you know, I think we've completed enrollment. We now have about 45 students in the class from either studying in or from 18 different countries. So we really have the makings this semester of a true global conversation. I suspect that many of you who've been looking at the 20 questions that I submitted to you last week are beginning to understand the various connections, connecting the dots between the various issues that as a species we're confronting on the planet. I hope you've also been able to have the opportunity to read the chapters that we've assigned in Jared Diamond's book, Collapse. Collapse is very important. I mean, among the places that you will know of that he looks at in this book is Easter Island. And Easter Island is in some ways a metaphor for our condition. Easter Island is an isolated island in the Pacific where the society that flourished there collapsed because they exceeded their environmental limits. A once flourishing civilization, if you will, ultimately collapsed, as did the Maya civilization and some others that Diamond looks at. The analogy, of course, between Easter Island, isolated in the Pacific Ocean, and us on planet Earth, isolated in the universe, is a strong one, and one which interests many people. This week, you should be looking at issues related to consumerism. One of the pieces that I ask you to look at is the first part. All 4 parts of it are certainly worth looking at, but the first part of Adam Curtis's documentary called The Century of the Self. Curtis is looking at the development of consumerism and how we as individuals have internalized consumerist sensibilities. Because I would argue that it's these consumerist sensibilities that really are implicated in the problems that we face. We treat the world and often each other as commodities, and commodities that can be used without any concern for whether or not they're sustainable. Many of the 20 questions will have brought that issue home to you, certainly with regard to water and other natural resources. Our way of living just is not sustainable, and we have to change it. But the difficulty, of course, is when you think about a consumerist sensibility, it's very difficult to give up all that we use. And as you'll see next week, some of you in the class have already done so. When you look at your ecological footprint, you'll recognize that if everyone lived as we do, most of us in this class live in rich countries, if everyone on the planet lived as we do, we'd need 3 or 4 or maybe more planets to live on. And we don't have them. So take a look at Curtis's part 1 of The Century of the Self and think to yourself about how much it implicates you. You know, I've made a joke to my students here in Derry about the fact that I'm a consumer just like anybody else, and I can be seduced in the great department stores by certain things that I know I really don't need, but I nonetheless buy. For some people, this is a massive problem, and of course, our economies are built around consumption of things we do not need. They're built around things we do not need and sustained economic growth. That means buying more things you do not need. So the important issue is to try to think beyond that. Think about what kind of society we might organize that is in fact sustainable and will allow us to live in harmony with the planet. There's also a sort of interesting video in this regard, a short video of 5 minutes called The Good Consumer. It's very ironic, but I think many of you will get the message and wonder how much of it describes you. So I hope this is helpful. Please don't hesitate to be in touch. I'll be sending you messages as I see new things that are important for us to consider. You can just send me an email and we'll follow up very quickly. Thanks very much.